Good afternoon. My name is Marcus Gray, and this is the news for Friday afternoon, March 25th, 1953. Our broadcast for today will cover apartheid's origin and the many acts and laws of apartheid that are currently in place. I will begin by providing some background information on apartheid. Apartheid was originally conceived by Dr. Daniel Malan, as shown here. When he was a young man, he saw white and colored children playing together. This affected him greatly for the rest of his life. Much later on, he reports that this is what gave him the idea of racial segregation, otherwise known as apartheid. A more political reason why apartheid originated was because blacks had started taking over skilled professions as well as moving into the cities. Voters were asked to choose whether or not they wanted to separate the races of South Africa and enforce apartheid. The majority voted yes. Apartheid was not a strong policy for a few years ago, but it is slowly catching on. Let's examine some of the primary laws and acts of apartheid from E! News reporter Jimmy Kennan on location in Johannesburg. Take it away, Jimmy.
Thank you, Marcus, for your introduction to apartheid. Right now, I'm here with local citizen John Lim. Tell me, John, what are your ideas based on the Population Registration Act?
I think this is very humiliating because for all natives and coloreds like me, we are now put into our own groups, whites, colored, and blacks. Many of us colored were treated as whites because of one of our parents, but now we were demoted to colors. It is very embarrassing to be treated one way yesterday and a totally different way today.
I see. This must make all colored and native feel ashamed of their own true identity.
Even though it's humiliating, all of us coloreds and natives are proud of our true identities, whether we are treated as inferior slaves or not.
How does the government know who is colored and who is native? It must be easy for people to make the same mistake between the two.
There is one crude test for finding this out. What you do is you stick a pencil through the back of a person's hair. If the pencil stays, they are a native. If the pencil falls, they are a colored. Let me demonstrate.
All right, thank you for your demonstration and your thoughts about the Population Registration Act. Now let's go back to the studio to our anchorman, Marcus Gray. Marcus, what can you tell us about the Immorality Amendment Act?
Well, Jimmy, the Immorality Amendment Act bans whites and non-whites from sleeping with each other and thus having mixed babies. This includes both colors and natives. The maximum punishment for the guilty parties is 6 months of hard labor. But the police are having a hard time of getting proof of these crimes, so they will occasionally invade private quarters without warning, as well as light torches and look inside parked cars late at night. It just proves the government's intent for keeping the white population white and the black population black. Back to you, Jimmy.
Wow, that seems like a harsh punishment for such a small crime. It seems as though the South African government's desire for complete superiority has led to outrageous acts such as these to be set in place. Let's get back to the local citizen, John, with his input on this act.
I believe the government is trying to humiliate us with acts such as this one. I have a girlfriend who is a non-white, and we both love each other. But now we have no authority to express emotions in privacy without fear of being invaded upon the police. What gives them the right to take our rights?
Your argument seems valid, and it does bring up the question of why the government believes in segregation to the point of even enforcing past laws to classify people by color and to force them to live in designated areas. Separating people using passes is the government's way of keeping track of the citizens, demonstrating their superiority, and enforcing laws and acts such as the examples mentioned earlier. John, would you mind informing us on the pass laws?
As a colored man over the age of 16, I'm required to carry one of these passes with me everywhere I travel. This law frightens me, for I have seen innocent men sent to prison for getting this book. I carry it everywhere, even in my own area. It's embarrassing to think that we are treated this way, almost as if we are absent-minded children. We can handle these ourselves. The government doesn't need to monitor everywhere we go.
It's understandable how you would react to such astounding laws. I also believe this is unfair for you, and it's gone too far. Designating areas for each separate group is uncalled for, let alone recording your actions. Well, that covers the opinion of an average citizen struggling in the fight against apartheid. Now we'll return the mic to Marcus back in the studio.
Thank you, Jimmy. Before I end the broadcast for the evening, I'd like to thank our special guest, John Lim, for volunteering to do this interview. I am crossing my fingers that you have a more positive and less segregated future. Well, that's all for today, folks, and thank you for tuning in to E-News Africa. We hope you can join us again tomorrow evening. This is Marcus Gray, reporting on E-News Africa, where prime time is all the time. Thank you.